The Department of Transport has granted power company Karpowership access to 3 ports. The company will have access to Ngqura, Durban, Saldanha Bay ports for about 20 years. However, this approval is still subject to environmental approval. In a statement, the department says the Transnet National Port Authority was consulted and it supported the approval of the application. For more on this, we're now joined by the National Department of Transport spokesperson Collen Msibi, joins us now on Zoom. Mr. Msibi, thank you so much for your time this hour on the program. So, Collen, what exactly has been approved?
Well, the department has the responsibility to look at application where companies they would request for access to our ports. And in this regard, there was an application to access the port of Richards Bay, the port of Saldanha Bay, and the port of Ngqura. So those are the 3. The Durban is actually not part of it. So that is basically the approval that has been granted, but there is a proviso to it. It's subject to, obviously, the TNPA having to look at the second layer of this application to see what is it, the operations that are going to be undertaken at these ports. But secondly, the Department of Environmental Affairs, they would also have to look at the environmental assessment and to grant whatever record of decision that they would have to grant. So this is just the first part of it. It's not complete. It doesn't mean they can start working tomorrow, operating tomorrow. It definitely doesn't mean that.
All right. Also, there's a lot of confusion as well around this. Why also this tentative approval when everything is still subject to environmental approval?
Well, we are the regulator, so if you want to operate at our ports, you would have to start with us because we level the ground. As you know, the ports, the landlord for our ports is actually the TNPA, but they would have to come to us because they have to level the playing field so that any operator who wants to participate in our ports, they have to come through us. And hence, we have to look at those applications and say, is it something that we can look at? Hence, part of it, we have to consult with the landlord, which is a TNPA, before we can grant any approval. And this is exactly what we did in this case. So they've said that they can look at it. But as I said, it's just a start. They must still go there, speak to the TNPA, and see whether they meet all the requirements that the TNPA is going to put.
Right. Now, so we understand the approval was also made in February. Why was it only announced now?
Well, first of all, let me just say that over the past 8 years, we've had almost about 4 or 5 of these applications approved by the department. And if I can ask, you won't even know some of them. And it's mainly because there isn't any legal requirement for us to publish or to gazette this kind of approval, and hence you don't know about it. And the reason why we've had to come out with this, because we thought it is in the public interest. I think it's a matter that has been out there, so we thought let's come out and clarify the issues, and that is why we've done this. But there isn't any legal obligation for us to go public and say this is what we are considering.
So now take us through what this entire deal means for Karpowership, and what does this mean in the broader sense?
Well, in the broader sense, what it does mean is that the cabinet approval for Karpowership to assist with the energy crisis, it simply means that they were granted that kind of approval by the Minerals and Energy Department, but it also meant, therefore, that they would have to come to us and say, we also need to have access to the ports. So can you imagine if we had said, okay, you've got the approval from the Minerals and Energy, but as the Department of Transport, you are disapproving your application to have access to the port. So that's basically what it means. But the second layer of it is that, in principle, we've agreed, there's an agreement of some sort, which will then have to be taken to the finer details with the TNPA, that they will have to do a BOT, in other words, a build, operate, and transfer after 20 years. As you know, this application is for 20 years. So it basically gives us an opportunity as a country that after 20 years, we'll have to inherit the infrastructure that they would have built. So it is an opportunity for the country, but this also helps us to deal with the issues of national security. As you know, that there is quite a crisis about our load shedding. And that is why it is such an important thing to assist those who are trying to come on board to assist the country. Hence, we couldn't then turn around and say, no, we're not going to consider, especially because the cabinet had already approved the issue of them having to assist with the load shedding crisis in the country.
Mr. Msibi, we have to thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for giving us clarity on this particular matter.